Alright, what is going on, guys? My name is Vaphorus, and today I've got a video to give you guys my thoughts and opinions so far on Rainbow Six Siege as of the beta. You know, I've seen a lot of people post first impressions videos or thoughts and opinions videos on all the different betas, but they do it while the beta is still going on. And I get that some people have a lot more time to play the game right when it first gets released for beta than I do, but one thing that I think, going into like a thoughts and opinions kind of thing, I feel like I need to play through the whole beta to get as much out of it as I can before I really go into detail on what I feel about the beta, about the game so far, and what could be changed, or what, how it feels going forward. So a couple things. Rainbow Six Siege, if you guys don't know what it is a 5v5 competitive shooter. You have round-based attack and defense. You guys take turns switching out between the attacking team and the defending team. In the beta they had two different team deathmatch scenarios, where one was a secure an area, the other one was a find and defuse a bomb, for the attackers at least. Defending, obviously you want to defend the bombs from being defused and defend the areas that are supposed to be secured. So the way that the game works, I think, is set up very well as far as the 5v5 tactical competitive play goes. There's three different maps that we saw in the beta. House was actually from the original, the alpha footage that I put it out back in whatever time the alpha was out. There's also Consulate, which is like a congressional style building with like police barricades and stuff like that. It looks like it basically would be like a terrorist attacking like a Capitol building or something like that. And then there's also Hereford Base. I don't know if I'm pronouncing Hereford, or the name of it particularly correct, but that's kind of like, it seems more like a training site kind of thing, where it's basically for like it would be like a training exercise, not so much like a real world scenario, which I do think is kind of cool. I like how the maps, it seems like if you saw from any of the alpha footage, there was the house map and then the plane map, which would both be sort of like training scenarios depending on which way you want to look at it, but it also could be a real life scenario or a real world scenario where a group or a bunch of people came in, broke into a person's house, took them hostage, and SWAT is being called. The three maps, I think, as far as looking at the maps from the beta, I feel very confident going into it that Ubisoft will have a large variety of maps in the final release, and I feel like they're all going to be really good maps. I liked every single map I played on. Personally, going into the beta, I preferred to play on House, mostly because I knew the map more. I think that was probably one of the more difficult parts of, as far as the map features go, is getting used to the maps is something that takes a little bit of time. I know I was consistently getting lost on the plane map. There was just a lot of things that looked very similar. I do like the way that the maps are set up, and I like how much destruction is possible. Obviously, that's one of the main features of Rainbow Six Siege, is the destructibility of the environments, which we've seen a little bit in Battlefield games and stuff like that, environment destruction, but it brings it to a completely different level in Rainbow Six Siege. Throughout the beta, they did also release, from, if any of you guys played the old Tom Clancy or the old Rainbow Six Vegas and Vegas 2, they had the classic terrorist hunt, which is basically a 5-person team of players going into a map and going into just kind of clearing out terrorist AI. And that was a lot of fun. One of the things that I thought was really cool about that was the amount of destruction that you saw in the maps. Because obviously, in multiplayer, the destruction is very focused on a couple central areas, as well as tactically destroying things. But when you have AI involved, they have the nitro cells, which are like C4, and they just. I played a terrorist hunt on House, which I will put a clip of that in here, and I played that on a map that we played before, and by the end of the round of the terrorist hunt, it was insane how destroyed that house was. The amount of destruction is by far more than I expected I mean, there's some walls and stuff like that obviously that you can't break through, but there were areas in the house where you could look from one end of the house to the other basically through walls, and it was really cool to see that, being the fact that we only saw multiplayer in the alpha. The fact that you could actually see what the AI are like is kind of cool. Changes from the alpha, I did notice one thing that, you know, is nice, that I think it adds a little bit better gameplay wise, is all of the outsides of the map, or of like buildings wherever you're in, like in Consulate or in the house now, all of the outer windows are already pre-boarded, which I think that helps, because you can't just sit there and, you know, you don't have to spend all of your prep time just boarding up the outer windows and not worrying about securing the insides of the building as well. So I think that was one of the changes from the alpha that I saw, which maybe that was their plan all along, or maybe that came from feedback, I don't really know, but I think it was a very good change. Also, I mean, just as far as gameplay goes in general, it is so much more smooth. Just the actual mechanics of the game, the way that it feels, it runs so much smoother than it did in the alpha, and it makes me very hopeful when it comes to the final release. Another thing that I really liked seeing more of in the beta was the fact that with the operators, or basically the class creation or class customization, the fact that you use renown points, which, or, you know, they're earned throughout the, you know, playing games and stuff like that, using those kind of things to buy new operators, which all have different sets of skills, different abilities. I feel like that's going to really play a big role, especially if you can get into a game with a lot of friends. With like a full 5-person team, you can customize out. Also, I mean, using voice communication just between online players during the beta without having any friends to play with, having just voice communication and actually setting up who is what operator, what their role is, I feel like that's going to make a huge difference when you actually have that kind of communication to be able to justify who goes with what role, what their purpose is, and how they're helpful to the team. Changes that I think overall could be made to the game, not so much gameplay wise, but, you know, because I'm sure there's going to be more polishing when it comes to the gameplay, but just a couple things that I noticed. Stuff like prep time, I feel like the actual preparation time could be a little bit better, a little longer, and also, but the time in between rounds, the time where, I mean, if you look at the other competitive shooter that I've played on my channel a lot, like Counter-Strike, it's very fast-paced. I mean, your round is over, it's a small little gap, and that's about it. You're back into the game again. And we're in Rainbow Six Siege, and I get that it's the beta. Maybe they'll change that for the final release. But in the beta, there's a lot of time. You end a round, you gotta reload everything. You know, reload the map, reload all the stuff, and there becomes a lot of downtime, which does get a little bit tedious. I don't want to really go to the point of saying that it got boring because of that, but it definitely, I definitely hope that they quicken that pace a little bit and just get right back into preparation phases and stuff. Also, I think there was a lot of talk about, you know, shields and the way that shields work in the game as far as hip fire accuracy with pistols. Basically, you're firing a laser beam that is dead on accurate with the pistols, and I know that they're working on tweaking of the balancing with that. One thing I think is there's so many different operators that their primary is a shield, and I feel like that almost allows too much of, you know, shield play with the riot shields and stuff like that. I mean, there were, just on defending teams, I think there were 3 or 4 defenders. So I mean, if you think about that, or 3 or 4 attackers that had shields, so you think about that, if there's 4 people on a 5-person team that choose that those operators, you could have a whole team basically of shields, and that becomes kind of obnoxious after a while, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I never really got into playing with shields. It's just never been something, even from back in like Call of Duty days with the riot shield, I never really got into it. I never enjoyed playing like that, and it was always a pain in the ass to play against people who chose to play like that, which I get. There's people that have different play styles, and it's not a problem. That's why they have those kind of things in the game. but I feel like there definitely needs to be some sort of adjustment, either with the amount of people that can use shields, or with the accuracy of the pistols, or how open you can be while firing, if you actually have to put your shield down to be able to fire a gun, or, you know, just move it out of the way or something so that there's actually something you can shoot at. Or even, you know, making it where the shields can only take a certain amount of damage, or adding a lot of like a hit flinch or something like that to when you get shot in the shield. I feel like that's one of the ways that they could really balance out the amount of shields in the game, or the use of shields, and give it a little bit more of a fair advantage to people that get stuck playing against a full shielded team or something, or a high amounts of shields in the game. All that stuff being said, I was super impressed with the beta. I thought it was a really fun time to play. I'm glad they extended it as much as they did, and I had a lot of fun playing this game. I did stream it once. I wish I would have been able to do it more, but it was still, like I said, it was a lot of fun to play. I'm glad that I got the chance to play in the closed beta again, as well as with the alpha, and I'm really looking forward to the final release. This is going to be one of those games that will take my time. I'm sure it is, especially with, I know there was talk in the forums, I think it was, of the amount, there's going to be more operators, more guns, more choices that'll all affect the way that the game gets played once the game is finally released. I know, for those of you guys who don't know, originally the release date was slated for October. Now it's pushed back to December, with the beta being December, with the beta taking place during the last part of September. So I think that was a really smart move, where most of the time people get really upset when people push back launch dates. Personally, especially with the technical glitches, I hope that one thing that I do really hope they do is smooth out the matchmaking, because during the beta there was just a lot of issues with it, but for anyone that played the beta will probably know and be able to attest to that. I'm glad that they took the time and being like, you know, we're gonna do this right, we're gonna push back the release date, you know, and we're gonna give you guys a beta too. And in the long run, I feel like it's going to be the smartest decision that they could have done. You know, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are looking forward to this game as much as I am, and looking forward to more videos of it once it finally gets released and I can buy it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the game so far from what you've seen, or if you got the chance to play it at all. I want to know what you guys think, as well as, you know, if you agree with any of the points that I pointed out, or if you disagree with any of them, what you think so far going towards the beta, or going from the beta towards the final release. But either way, thank you guys again for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time.